Let's talk about the special relationship. Let's talk about the special relationship between Donald Trump and Britain's new ambassador, well, at least Keir Starmer hopes he will be our new ambassador. That's Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, dinosauric Blairite, that cabinet member all the way back in those years for Tony Blair, always getting into trouble. Nicknamed the Prince of Darkness for his Machiavellian scheming behind the scenes. Anyway, he's got the gig, but Donald Trump could technically veto him. So we'll ask Ryan Saby from The Sun about that in just a little while. But first, have a look at this.
Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is...
Yeah, well, he's getting a lot of flack for that because he's doing it looks like a Nazi salute. To be fair, it's being written off as just him being excitable, and there was no Nazi references in his speech, but there's very clear pictures that don't look very good. Probably just Musk not really thinking things through, but worth bringing to your attention that. Well, let's get back to the story we were about to do. Well, let's go straight over to The Sun's Deputy Political Editor, Ryan Saby. Welcome, Ryan.
Evening, Kevin.
What's your feeling? I mean, Trump is leaving it hanging in the air. He could technically, as president, block Peter Mandelson as our man in Washington, as our ambassador in Washington. My instinct is he'll make Keir Starmer nervous, but won't actually do that. But, you know, Mandelson's on record as calling him a white supremacist. I mean, the relationship between the President of the United States and Britain's ambassador in Washington, our most important diplomat, is not going to be good, is it?
Well, it certainly hasn't got off on the right footing if you go back to some of the comments that Lord Mandelson made in 2019. He really sort of went for the jugular with Trump when it seemed to be fashionable to, and he called him, a reckless and a danger to the world. Now, in an ideal world, that wouldn't happen. Dame Karen Pierce is currently in that role, and listening to commentators over recent days and weeks, that there is an element of surprise that Keir Starmer didn't stick with her, particularly for maybe for a little bit longer. But we are expecting Lord Mandelson to come in there and be our next ambassador, but it is hanging in the air a little bit. Speaking to people in and around Downing Street earlier today, it seemed that they don't expect any hiccups on this, but Donald Trump certainly, obviously he's only just got into office, and I think there's some paperwork that formally has to be signed, but let's see what happens in the coming days. I think it would be a major surprise to see Lord Mandelson not get this job. I think it really would cause some sort of damage between Downing Street and the White House. So expect it to go ahead, but I don't think the things that Lord Mandelson would have said back 4 or 5 years ago will be forgotten quickly.
Yeah, and I suspect that the relationship between our embassy and the White House is not going to be good, nor is the White House's relationship with the rest of the cabinet and Keir Starmer, most of whom at some point seem to have insulted him because it made them feel good about their left-wing credentials or whatever. Now, on the guest list today, I mean, it's not necessarily automatic that world leaders are invited to an inauguration, although quite a few have been today, but no invitation for Keir Starmer, no invitation for any member of his cabinet, no invitation for the man that we want to be our ambassador, Peter Mandelson, and yet invited were Liz Truss, Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, Boris Johnson, even Alex Phillips from Talk was invited. This is pretty significant, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in a way. Now, but one thing I would just hold your horses a little bit, and a lot of those invites to the likes of Suella Braverman have come from They're all in a private capacity.
Yeah, okay.
Some of them have been invited by individual sort of senators or Republicans or congressmen. So I think we should just bear that in mind. But I do think it is significant, or certainly, eyebrows raised at the fact that Giorgia Meloni, the Italian prime minister, was invited to that. And not only would you see it as a snub, maybe if you wanted to phrase it like that, to Sir Keir Starmer, but also the likes of Emmanuel Macron from France and other world leaders. So I think it's seen as the way to do it, that your ambassador is there, and maybe if there's a very sort of special relationship between the president and the individual country leader, you'd expect them to be there. So it is interesting on that front. But I think in terms of the other individuals around that, I think that they have taken their lead or taken their invitations from senior Republicans.
Indeed. And Rachel Reeves is over in Davos. So we're hearing that when she went last year, her dance card was completely full. People couldn't wait to talk to her. She said that Britain would be open for business, bright new era, under Labour and all that. This year she's gone over there, and the business community, who are there, of course, not that keen on her budget, her £40 billion tax grab, which they say is bad for business. And apparently people don't particularly want to talk to her this year, and she hasn't even got a main speaking slot on the stage there. So rather different circumstances for her this year.
Yeah, no, totally. No, I think that when she went last year, it was full of the energy of being in opposition, being that shadow chancellor, and actually having the prospect of her getting into power. Everyone wanted to talk to her. Now, the fact that she's had that budget, it is a tax-raising budget, and I think that the sort of she's got some meetings with some big businessmen, but I think it'll be seen as in a totally different light. The way that she's dealt that hammer blow to business. That's certainly how they have seen it in recent months. So, look, she's got some big meetings. She's going out there. She's representing Britain to try and get some of that inward investment here, but in totally different circumstances. Once she's delivered that budget, big businessmen and all that will be talking to her on the fringes. But let's just see if she can talk. She'll be there to talk Britain up. Let's just see if she gets a warm reception.
Well, I hope she does talk Britain up, because she usually talks it down. So does Keir Starmer. We're hearing that he desperately wants to get a trade deal in place with Donald Trump, with America. But we're also hearing that Donald Trump might be minded to put him at the back of the queue, or the back of the line, as they say in America. Very quickly, what are the prospects of a trade deal? Not great, I would have thought.
I don't think it's in the priority of America, but I think you might see sort of sector by sector deals. I think you're more likely to see that than a big free trade agreement that'll take a lot of time. Eventually, yes, but maybe not the main priority for the president. Brilliant,
Ryan. Thank you so much for your time. Ryan Savey there, Deputy Political Editor of The Sun.